Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to this live stream, or if you are watching the playback, thank you so much for watching the playback of this. This is kind of a big focus to have in just a live stream, so I am not expecting to get to everything or to say everything that I want to say or to cover everything that needs to be covered. I just don't think that that's possible, but this is a topic that a lot of people consistently ask me about, and I've never really been able to find a way to kind of properly delve into it or kind of open it up. It's kind of how I felt when we went through the basics of astrology in the Witchy Book Club. So we definitely have covered tarot a lot on my channel. I do a lot of unboxings of tarot and things like that. But there really isn't any sort of resource here on my channel about how I read tarot. So I feel like that's what I'm looking to cover today. I have some key points that I want to like bring up, or kind of some certain areas that I want to focus on. Um, and I just have them kind of like in a little list here so I don't get so off topic, which will probably still happen. But let's wait for some more peeps to kind of show up. This was random. I didn't really make an event or say that I was going to oh, I just thought of another thing I wanted to bring up. Shit. All right, so yeah, I also will probably try. I will try my best. This will be a little harder for me, but I will try and leave timestamps to like major points of conversation in the description box below once this goes, posted after it's done being live, so that if you're looking to kind of get answers on a certain area of tarot, say reversals or court cards, or how my spirit guides or spirit influences my readings, things like that. I will try and leave timestamps if I can kind of find them afterwards. So hello to everybody kind of coming into this live stream and joining us today. Hi, Jezebel Von Tex, how are you? Yeah, and so I know as a disclaimer here, you guys, and I feel like I need to start it off right away. Coffee first, 89. What's up? How are you? I definitely feel the need to mention that I am going to be talking about the way that I associate with tarot. There are so many ways that you can read tarot, that you can associate with tarot, that you can connect with the cards. So this is by no means the end all be all way. But I'm just going to be talking to you about how I do my readings, or how I connect to the cards, and a little bit of my background on, how I started reading tarot and things like that. I wanted to do this live because I know that there are probably specific things that you guys have questions on that I might not realize. And so, like I said, hi to everyone who's just joining in. I'll check the comments and say hi in just 1 second. I do have kind of a list of things that I want to cover here, but if at any point you want me to go deeper, or you have some sort of like side note that you want me to kind of cover, yeah, that would be great. Also, if you've gotten a reading from me before and you're in this chat and you wanted me to kind of, I don't want to go over your reading because I won't remember it. That's something that I definitely want to talk about, is that when I do client readings, it is very important for me, as soon as it is done, to completely disconnect and almost like wash it from my energy and brain. So when people come back to me consistently for readings, I always say in the beginning of the reading, like, if you hear multiple messages, it is because spirit wants you to know, or that the tarot cards are coming through with communications that there's still things that you need to work on in this area. And that, I don't remember. If I've literally said the same exact thing to you, then that's extra important, because it means that you still need to work on it. But I won't remember, past readings. But if there is somebody in here, that has gotten a reading from me and is like, how did you get to this conclusion, or something like that, where I can kind of explain, then feel free if you feel comfortable. Okay, so hi Madeline, how are you? Anna, hey girl, love you and your podcast. Thanks. Lots of love from, oh my gosh, hello. That's so cool. Hold on, wait a second. I just geeked out for a bit and put my camera out of focus. Sarah, hi Sarah, Carm, hi Michael. Okay, I just started filming my first video. Yay! You have inspired me so much, and I have a ton of respect for those who get behind the camera now. That is hard. So thank you for putting yourself out there for us. Thank you. I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. Just starting sometimes is the hardest thing. So, let's start with how I learned tarot, right? So I have been, and I kind of talked about this a little bit on the podcast. If you guys listen to the podcast, hi Laura, hi Magical Morning, good morning. So I have the Rider-Waite Centennial in my hands, and I was just shuffling it up. So I talk about this a little bit, and I'm not going to go super into detail, but I have been raised in a very witchy, metaphysical, spiritual mindset, however you want to put it. Like, my mom would never have said when she was younger that she was a witch or that she was witchy, unless it was kind of like a joke. We came from a very earth-based, I came from a very earth-based mindset and household on both sides of my family. So my grandma on my dad's side, and then my mom and her mom are very like of the land. They like, my mom got a family union. Anyways, I was raised with aromatherapy and astrology and tarot as like just being around me. So nobody really tried to force me to learn anything at a young age. I was just very aware that like this sort of was in my daily consciousness. And I've explained before, like, if I were to have gone over to my grandma's house on my dad's side, and my brother and I were eating at the dinner table, this like an average conversation might sound like, oh, look at Sam. She's going back for seconds and third helpings of potatoes. That's because she has a Taurus moon. And her brother, who is a Virgo, isn't going to let any single one of his foods touch because he likes to have them organized and he likes them very plain. And he likes to take them in sections. And so, like, even if I wasn't being taught astrology or tarot, my grandma was doing readings out of her home. Her tarot cards were always out. And I was given an oracle deck when I was very little, as well as a tarot deck when I got a little older. And so it just kind of was always around me, but I never really wanted to learn. It just, like, I had this rebellious nature against it. Like, anything, my mom or my grandma was doing, I was like, ugh, that's weird. Like, ugh. So I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, you're so lucky you grew up around that. I am, but it took me a very long time to go like, oh, this is worthwhile. And actually, I do want to learn this. I do have interest in this. And so really, really, I had started dabbling in tarot and astrology kind of on my own and learned how to read the cards intuitively, and not that great, but like I could read them in high school and just kind of make do with what I had. And then my grandpa got really sick, and I was spending time over there a lot more. And when he passed away, I wanted to make sure that my grandma was being taken care of and that she was okay. She's totally being taken care of, but more so just that like someone was there for her. So I started going over to her house once a week, and this was almost 10 years ago now. And we quickly started the conversation around astrology first, but there was always an influence of tarot in there, because how my grandmother does her astrology natal chart readings is that she dives into the chart. They talk for a long time, and then she ends off with like a 13 card tarot spread. Like, she's crazy. So no matter what, when I was learning astrology, the two were kind of fused together, but we weren't focusing on learning tarot. We were focusing on learning astrology. And like 9 or 10 years ago, I started picking it up so quick, astrology, picking it up so quick, and I just became obsessed. Everything about me just wanted to talk to people about astrology and read people's charts and pull them up and understand what conjunctions were and what North Node was and how the Cancer in the fourth house of the home, and like everything about it. I wanted to just like it was my being. It was everything that I associated with was astrology. And it still is, but I definitely had kind of like to pull back a bit. It's like kind of was like so in. Is her astrology tarot reading the same as your grandma's go-to reading? Yes. So the tarot, that's a good question, Madeline. And hi to everyone who's coming in. I do want to say hi to every single one of you individually, but I know that I'm going to try and cover so much during this live stream that I'm trying to just kind of go right into it. I did want to give a little bit of the back on how I got to this point, just for anyone who's hasn't heard before, because I've mentioned this a few times in different ways throughout my time on YouTube. And so the focus was astrology. I was reading natal charts professionally with anyone that I could get my hands on. I didn't have a platform or anything, so it was mostly me just like word of mouth or kind of on my Facebook or something like that. So I was reading a lot for people that I like went to high school for, that was like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, you know, and I was meeting them in like Starbucks and Panera and all these things, and reading their natal charts, and then I would throw cards afterwards. So I would say like, hey, I know how to read tarot, but I also am still sort of learning on how to do this professionally. So do you mind after the reading if I throw like a spread, you know? And I was always expecting to throw maybe like 5 or 6 cards, and it would always end up in this grandma go-to spread, which is like 11 to 13 cards. So I would like keep these people locked in a Starbucks for like 3 hours because we've gone over the chart and now we've gone into a 13 card tarot spread. And sometimes I would have to use the guidebook, or sometimes, you know, I would say to them, like, I don't really know, like, I'm stuck here, or, you know, what does this image kind of look like to you? Do you connect with it? And I really relied a lot on other people when I first started out, but I never really lacked the confidence in myself to say, like, I don't know, or I'm gonna check the guidebook on this one, you know? And everyone was always like, oh, no, for sure, because I had really confidently given them this astrology reading while at the same time telling them beforehand, like, look, I know how to read tarot, I'm confident in it, but also there's some things that might hang me up because I don't professionally do this with other people. So that's kind of, I didn't intend to really, hi, Sam. I just saw her like live. Yeah, so I didn't really intend to read tarot professionally when I first started off because I was so focused on astrology, but then I just found the way my grandma did it and the way that she taught me and the way that it was like, well, we're done talking about astrology for the night. Let's sip on some tea and throw some cards and then go watch So You Think You Can Dance. Like, it just seemed like the two needed to go together. And so that's how that started. And then, you know, I quickly dove into tarot as like more of a stereotypical meanings and really tried to lay the foundation of like really solid knowledge on the cards throughout the last, you know, I would say like 7 or 8 years. And so that's kind of how I learned and how I got into it. If anyone has any questions about the specifics of that, because I definitely could go into greater detail, but I think that's a pretty good synopsis or summary of like how or how long or like how it began. But I have talked extensively about this in like my very first encounters with oracle cards and things like that. So if you guys want to listen to the Speaking of Which podcast that I have with Skylar, my best friend, the episode, oh god, I can't remember what it's called. Like I think it's our most recent one. We're about to film another one that's going to come out today. So if you're watching this a day or two late, it might be the last like one or two. But it's all about, if you read the description, it talks about us and our first time with tarot and oracle and things like that. So you'll be able to find it pretty easily. Hi, Allie Forrest. Hi, Kat. Hi, Imogen. I love you. So Madeline said, that is awesome. Love that your connection with your grandma is such a huge part of tarot and astrology side. Yeah, and so, you know, I'd like to thank my mom for, I'd like to thank the Academy. No, I would like to thank my mom because she really raised me with the right way of approaching intuition and approaching my spirituality and my imagination and really trusting in myself. So even though my grandma taught me astrology and tarot and I kind of learned on my own, the way that my mom raised me was very much like, you know, you only get an hour or two of TV. There's no electronics on Sunday. Like, let's use our imagination. Let's play games. Like, let's, you know, spend time outside. Like, my mom was very much good at teaching us how to use our creative intuition. And so that when I did have the resources to learn the tarot and astrology, I already had the confidence and the know-how to connect with other things, that it just sort of like really clicked for me. And I'm not really trying to brag, it just, that's what it was. And I'm very grateful for my mom to have raised my brother and I the way, and my step siblings the way that she did. Because I feel like my logical, very like critical mind would have been a little bit more stifled in that area if my mom wouldn't have like kind of babied it into being super super open. Hi, see willow, herbs, and tarot. So that's a little bit of the backstory. So I have a lot of different areas that I want to cover. Is there anything that you guys want me to start with, that you're interested in how I read tarot? Because I have like a whole thing here. You know what? Anybody put what you want in the comments. I'm gonna start with something and then I'll kind of roll into whatever you guys want to. So I have down here guidebook, because I did just mention that. So when I first started reading tarot, I was okay with using the guidebook. I wouldn't like say I would use it as a tool to kind of get the balls rolling, right? To get the mindset going. So let's say I pulled the Hermit, right? And I'm feeling like it's in the position of what's blocking somebody, right? Because we have a tarot spread, and I'll come back to that. Yeah, see, I think someone just mentioned a spread. I'll come back to that, Madeline. So let's just say I am I have the Hermit, and I've been doing really well with the reading, and then this was when I first started, and I feel the need to go like, okay, I kind of know what this card means, but like I don't know how to interpret it for like what would this mean for another person, right? So I would say, like, let me use the guidebook. I'm going to just see, and then I would pull up a guidebook and it would tell me some keywords, or it would kind of explain a little bit of what the card meant. I would read it out loud to the client, right? And I would say, you know, this card means this, 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 and this. And either I would say, I would give it up to them, like, how does that connect with you? Does this connect with you? And if not, then maybe there's a keyword in that guidebook that kind of, oh, this is what I feel like it means, or like, here's where we can talk about, or here's where we would go. When I would use the guidebook, I wouldn't use it in like a defeat way. I wouldn't go like, shit, I suck, I don't know what this means. I would go, ooh, let's see what we can do here. Like maybe the guidebook has a way to get my mind kind of like going. And so I'd always kind of approach it that way, and that would make me less like defeated or feel guilty or feel bad about it, or like kind of lose confidence in myself as a reader. It was almost like this magical like lifeline that I could go, ooh, wait, phone a friend, you know, and then, oh, I knew that answer. That's right. Like, let's do this. Let's talk about this. So if you approach it in that way, if you're first starting off, or if you're still trying to like read for other people, instead of going like, shit, I don't know any of these meanings, I have to like use the guidebook. Most people, if you let them know that, they don't care. Like, they just want to see what you have to say, and like they're willing to like help you and stuff like that. Most people. So I still like to use the guidebook for readings, and I'll explain how. And if you've gotten a reading from me before, you'll know that I do use the guidebook, but I use it in a very sort of similar but very different ways. So I'll throw the tarot spread, and then I always like to have an ending oracle card to the reading. And so almost all of my readings will have at least one oracle card in it. But what I like to do is, especially for my bigger spreads, so I will throw, like, let's say it's a 13 card spread, right? I've talked for an hour, and I have gone over and over and over different aspects of the tarot and different aspects of how I feel like it connects to you. And then when I shuffled up those cards and threw them, I shuffled up an oracle card, and I like to keep it face down. So you can see that oracle card there the whole time, but you don't know what it is. So I'm not influenced by it. I am not, kind of like referencing it, or kind of, because when I throw my spread, I definitely look at the whole thing. So if that oracle card was up, even if I'm not reading that yet, it would definitely influence the reading. But with it thrown and it down and it next to the cards, I feel like its energy is still seeping into the rest of the reading. So what I like to do is once we've gone through all of the tarot cards, I like to take the oracle card and flip it upright. And that's like our ending overall, very much like a summary or kind of like a let's bring the whole thing together message. And what I find that's really, really interesting is that almost every single time the card summarizes everything so beautifully, and that's almost like validation for myself, and I feel like for the client, that we were in the right space and that this really is what we're working towards, or this really is what the focus is. And then I take the guidebook of that oracle card with a very much sense, and I say this a lot in the videos too, like, hey, I just talked for an hour and said a bunch of keywords to you and a bunch of different messages. Let's see what somebody else's voice can bring to the table. Whoever wrote that guidebook or whoever created that deck, let's see what else we can bring in. And almost every single time that little blurb in the guidebook is going to completely reference things that were already spoken about, and it just kind of makes it feel like it sets in place, if that makes sense. I also just really like to see if there's any other extra layer or message that will spark in my brain when I'm reading text from another guidebook. So I love using the guidebook if it's used constructively and it's open and you're not feeling, you feel confident about it and you use it in your own way. I really feel like I think it's great. And I think that some people are so, so talented. And the way that they describe cards or the way that they, bring their meanings to the table is really beautiful. So I think what helps too is that because, I do video recorded readings for the most part now. And when I'm doing readings, I don't get like this give and take of energy. It's me just speaking and I have to just kind of let my intuition like go. I feel like when I get the validation for myself, it almost is like, because I don't have the ability to be like, what does this mean for you? Cricket, because I'm talking to a camera. So I do like to use the guidebook still, and I would not feel weird about it or shameful or anything like that if you can use it in your own way. Now, I would never just like pick a deck that I don't know how to work with, and I don't need the guidebook for tarot, and I don't feel like at this point it's professional for me to use the guidebook to read tarot, but I feel like Oracle is a different beast, and the way that I use it at the end of my readings is just kind of fun. Okay, I'm gonna go back a little bit. So Madeline says, when you throw a spread, do you shuffle for each position in the spread, or shuffle all in the beginning and just throw them all? Because some spreads I found have multiple question breakdowns. That is a great question. Personally, I shuffle the cards up once and throw them all at the same time. So I'll even show you how I like to shuffle. And sometimes this will change a little bit. So whatever I'm trying to focus on for the reading, whether it is a new moon in Aquarius, or it is my menstrual cycle, or whether it is for a client, whatever that is, I am putting my intention and my thoughts and my energy into shuffling the deck, and I almost just let everything go. It's almost like when you meditate and you're supposed to be just focusing on breath. That's kind of what I'm doing, except I keep saying things in my head over and over again while I'm shuffling, and kind of let myself almost be hypnotized by it. So what I'll do, and I'll get to the tarot spreads in just a second, but this shuffling is on my list. I'm crossing it off. And so is tarot spreads. Okay. So what I like to do, if possible, if the deck is not humongous like the Enchanted Tarot, I will cut the deck, right? So I have the two sections. I do love to riffle shuffle. That's just me. I've always loved it. I feel very fancy and magical when I'm riffle shuffling. And I feel like I really work in the energy and intention when I'm kind of shuffling them like that. So I will riffle shuffle, right? And this is when I'm kind of saying in my head to myself, I'm letting all of my energy and daily interactions go. Most of the time, I will shuffle at least 3 times this way, and I will ask in my head for my guides, and I will call them by name to kind of step forth to help me translate or to receive any information that I need to, right? And so I'm kind of getting the groove into the shuffling, and then a lot of the times I will kind of flip the deck in between shuffles like that, because I do read reversals, so that means a lot to me. So I'm shuffling, and then what I do is once I bring them in my hands, I'm done riffle shuffling. Like, let's say I'm focusing for a client, I will hold them in my hands like this, and I will overhand shuffle. But every time the cards hit my hands, I'm either saying a word or like a syllable. So for instance, like I'll be like, what do I need to know? You know, what does my client need to know? Or I will say that client's name and I will say it in my head. And there is like some very ritualistic part of me saying that just kind of, I don't know, it just feels right to me. Again, this is just how I do it. You don't have to do it this way. This is just how I do it. So I know that when I feel like the time is right, or when I feel like I'm done shuffling and I have the cards in the way that it needs to be. So let's just say I ended on, what does Madeline need to know? That doesn't feel good. What does she need to bring in? Whatever I need, whatever I'm saying, how can I relate the messages for her, right? Let's just say that feels good. Then I will throw the whole spread. Dump, 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 and just keep going. And I trust that my shuffling, my cards, my intention has done what it needs to do for the deck to put everything in place to give me all of the clues and messages that I need to know. Now, what about when cards pop out, or when I have, you know, like if I'm shuffling and one of them kind of falls? I can't think of what the term of that is. Jumpers. So I read jumpers. I feel like they're the ones that are like, hey, pick me. And so not everyone does or reads that. I will limit the jumper cards to like 1 or 2, maybe 3 if I feel like, okay, I can handle this. But any more than like 2 or 3, what I'll do is I will put the whole stack back into the deck and I will say, thank you so much for showing up, but I need you to be more concise. So if you want to present yourself again, please make sure that you can make it more concise. Something along those lines. So I thank the cards for jumping out. I thank myself for fucking up the shuffle. But I do still try and recognize that I feel like those cards are trying to give me messages like sooner or stronger. But I just put it back if it's too much or too overwhelming, and I'll just say like in my head, or you know, to my guys, like, thank you so much, but let's bring it together, okay? let's shorten this up. And so yeah, that's I hopefully answering 2 major things in one: how I shuffle, what I go about to shuffle, and how I connect to other people like that through their cards, and then throwing all the cards at once. Now there is another style that I like to read in, which is much more like, I don't do it a whole lot, but it's much more fluid and it's much more like spontaneous and right off the bat. So I just did this for my cousin the other day, right? So we were trying to go over a certain topic and I didn't have a spread. I just had my cards. I'm shuffling it up for her. I feel good. And I just threw 3 cards, right? And I kind of read them all together as one, the best that I could, kind of put them together as like a story. And then I got that story, and to continue the story, I didn't reshuffle the deck, but I would throw 3 more cards, right? And then if I feel like I want to focus in a new direction, but I'm not getting what I need, sometimes I will just riffle shuffle one more time or overhand one more time and then throw 3 more cards. But that is like, I rarely read like that. But it is really fun because there is no border, there's no structure, there's no yes or no way to do something or right or wrong. You just kind of have to like go with it and do what you think. And that's really nice because I'm so used to having like spreads and stuff. Okay, I'm going back. Angel said, do you skip over the guidebook meetings sometimes and base a card on only your intuition? Well, yeah, I definitely do. And like I said, I really only use the guidebook in my readings at the end for the oracle, and I will most likely try and give you some sort of message myself first. But I have by then probably talked for at least an hour, so it is kind of nice to see what some other things can come up with. But yeah, definitely, I don't need to use the guidebook. I kind of like it at the end, just, and I won't I won't pick a guidebook that's like 500 pages or nothing, like, like a little blurb or a little paragraph, just to be kind of like, look, here's our ending message. I really like as well when guidebooks have like affirmations or kind of like mantras or something to leave the client with, to have them feel like they can use that as like a communication tool for themselves. I definitely need to start remembering my guidebook. I do all client readings at markets with ethereal visions, and I still struggle with the well and the artist additional cards when they come up. You know what? Sam, definitely don't feel weird bringing your guidebook, but also if there are extra cards, feel free to take them out. I know that was the artist's vision for the deck, but I took the fountain card out of the fountain tarot. I used it with a few client readings, and it just like, I'm like, what? I don't get it. So I took that card out because even though it worked for the artists and the creators of that deck, it didn't work for me, so I took it out. Sea willow, herbs, and tarot. It sounds like we use the guidebook in a similar way. I always use the guidebook as a guide. I try it first without, but then if I get stuck, I do look at the guidebook like a validation. Nice. Anna says, do you have any tips for reading reversals? As a beginner, I struggle with that a bit. Okay, yeah, so that's another thing I wanted to go into, so we will go to that next. I was going to go to tarot spreads next, but I sort of talked about it. We'll come back to it. I feel like I left off in a good spot. I am not focused anymore. Okay. So, reversals are interesting, and I feel a little scared to talk about this topic because I don't know why I feel like it's so controversial, but that's just what I feel. So again, I'm gonna preface, or I'm gonna give like a little disclaimer. This is how I connect to tarot reversals. This is what I choose to do, and this is what I was taught, and this is what feels right for now. I'm subject to change anytime I want. I'm a fucking Gemini, so don't hold me to anything I say, because I can completely change my mind tomorrow. But I was raised reading reversals. In fact, I was actually taught to read left and right as well. So my grandmother strictly uses the Mother Peace Tarot, which is circular. So there really is an upright and a reversal, but the cards also face left or right depending on how it is thrown in the spread. So when I would watch her, when she would do tarot readings for me when we were learning, she would say something like, well, this card is tilted to the right, so it's going to be more, or if it's tilted to the left, it's kind of a weaker energy. And I really liked that, even though I don't have any circular decks and I don't read left to right. I really liked the added element of reversed versus upright. That's for me. I know a lot of readers that say, I don't read reversals because I'll just intuitively know when it is in a blocked or reversal energy, or whether to read it as a reversal. And that's totally cool. When I hear that, I do sort of get like, okay, well, does that mean that I'm not intuitive, or does that mean that I'm, like I have to rely on it? And I have to let that like insecurity go, because I actually love reversals, and I like to associate them a lot with retrogrades. So there's so many ways that you can interpret a reversal of a card. So let me pull one out that I feel like is a good example. Okay, well, let's just And there's really great books as well. Like there is the tarot reversal, or there are books that talk about reversals. But you really can't cover everything because you just don't know. There's so many different influences or things that could come up with a reversal. So let's take the sun, right? So the sun upright, happiness, joy, playfulness, uh, inner child. I also associate this with the energies of Leo because Leo is ruled by the sun. All of this very la ta 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 ta, happy and bright and fulfilled and playful and all of this for this card. So now when we reverse it, what a lot of people might tend to do is go the opposite of that, and that's this is without a spread. This is just in general terms, which sometimes that comes up, right? So you might think, oh, you're depressed, or you're not having a good time, or you're having a difficult time feeling. How are you supposed to have fun? Or maybe you have some inner child work to do, or maybe you need to get outside and soak up some vitamin D because you're too inside. And you can take it to the literal version of this, or maybe it is your pride coming to Leo, and you need to kind of stand up and use your voice and go out and be courageous. And there's so many things that could come up with this reversal like that. But also I see reversals as more of inward work. So depending on what the spread position is, because again, this is getting kind of confusing. I'm trying to keep it as best as possible. But so just in general, a lot of people, if you're reading reversals, might go to the opposite meaning of the card. And that's fine. Not always does that happen to me. In fact, I would say it's less than half of the time do I go to the reversal. A lot of the times I use these, like I said, as retrogrades. So if you're not familiar with astrology or retrogrades are when the planet appears to be moving in the opposite direction, right? So it's a lot of the times going within and inward work. And instead of going and this being like external or extroverted, a lot of the times it feels introverted or inside or internal with this energy. And so when I see something like this, instead of me going, you're having fun, you want to go do all these things, it might be inside, we're having a hard time enjoying ourselves. We need to take a look inward at our inner child work. We need to, depending on what other cards are around it, depending on what the spread position is. Because if this is another person in the reading, if the spread position is another person in the reading, obviously that would definitely influence us a lot different. But for the most part, reversals to me is like an added layer of a reading onion that I am able to just peel back, or kind of think of the card as a tree, and all the different meanings are the roots and branches, right? And so when the card is upright, actually, I'm loving this. I don't know where I got this shit from, but this is great. So here's your trunk of a tree, right? You have your basic knowledge, you have your imagery, you can see that it has bark on it, you know what the tree looks like. And maybe what kind of tree is it? Is it an oak? Is it a maple? What does that mean? What does it do for the environment around it? What plants can you or can't you put next to it for it to grow? Whatever, right? So then all of the upright meanings to me are like the branches and the leaves and all of the fruit on the tree that you can see clearly, or that, are very much outwardly. And the reversal of the card is the roots of the tree. So all of the roots are still there. It's still a part of the tree, but it's underground. It's almost more subconscious and more kind of internal on what that meaning might be. And not always, but that's just kind of a good way for me to describe more so how I'm seeing them as retrogrades, right? All of it is still part of the whole plant. The whole tree is still the sun card. But there's so much more added layers and things to me when I do reversals. Now, I just saw someone's comment say, I don't do reversals. Reversal or tarot is hard enough as it is. I get that. And I do know that struggling to learn the basic meanings and how to kind of associate with things in general can be a bit overwhelming. But and if you don't learn with reversals, that's fine. To me, I feel very fortunate and very lucky to have just kind of learned it at the time of learning everything, and my grandma did teach me and help me so much. So for everyone who's learning on their own, I get that. If you don't want to use reversals, you don't have to. The roots of the tree are still there if you don't have reversals, because those roots might come up if you have this card in a specific situation or spread position. Like if the sun card, if you don't read reversals and the sun card comes up in a challenging, like what's blocking you, what's challenging you, what are you struggling with kind of position, then you can stick to the same sort of meaning. You can stick to the same root idea, or kind of maybe the branches that are kind of like there but they're like falling off, or like with any sort of gust of wind it's just going to kind of drop to the floor, not really technically be part of the tree anymore. However you want to take that metaphor and run with it, go for it. But that's a good way for me to sort of explain how I feel about reversals. I love reversals as well, because if I throw a whole spread, and I see that almost all of I just did this actually. It's been really weird. I had two client readings. One was all major arcana cards, which we'll get to that as well. All major arcana cards, and then the next person I read for, every single one of their cards was reversed. And I was like, what is going on? Like, all right, this is where we're gonna focus here. So when I see that, I don't automatically think like, oh shit, they're really, they're stuck, like everything's reversed, this sucks. To me, we're having some areas that we feel a little challenged, that we feel like we're a little stuck in, but also we're doing a lot of that information is going to come from within, or a lot of that feels retrograde energy for me. So it's not so much more that we feel stuck, depending on what the cards are, but if for the most part, I look at all of that as like here's the stuff that's taking place within that we have to extract, or that we have to kind of clarify going within the client. I hope that makes sense. I will see if there's any other questions about reversals. If you guys have questions about reversals, I'm going back in the comments, so I will make my way down to it, but please ask them now. If you have anything you want to say about, if there's anything that you want to say about reversals, speak now, if I ever hold your peace. So, hold on. Yeah, hi, Nikki. Thank you for being here. Hi to everyone just coming in. Yeah. So, let me see. This is totally helping me with the reversals. Thank you. I'm so glad. Yeah. So Ashley, how are you? I was never interested in learning reversals, but every time I'd pull something reversed, I'd get a nagging feeling that there was a meaning to it being reversed. So now I do. That's great that you followed your intuition, that you kind of just forced yourself to kind of take on your own meanings. And again, you guys, this is just the way that I read, or that I associate with the tarot, and every reading is different. Every card and every, client is subject to it just going how it wants. My readings and my interpretations are extremely fluid. There's always a base of the knowledge of the root meaning of that card, but it really, again, we'll get into more of that later, but it really does kind of just navigate its way as it needs to. I do pay attention to reversals, so I guess I read them, but I don't change the meaning of the card completely, but it also depends on the questions asked. Loving this. Yeah, exactly, Nikki. And sometimes it really does, to me, feel like, okay, the 10 of Swords, let's say we have the 10 of Swords. I thought I just saw that one, so maybe we won't do the 10 of Swords, but I don't want to feel like I'm looking for it. Okay, 10 of Swords. So the 10 of Swords, upright, hard card, really like defeat, feeling like we're wounded, we're down, there's no getting up now. We're dead as a doornail. We have been not only stabbed, we have been extremely stabbed and murdered, and, it can't really get much worse than this, This is really like feeling betrayed, feeling like we're overwhelmed with anxieties. There's so much to this card, right? So upright. So taking this and going reversed, feeling like we're healing from trauma or healing from wounds, or feeling like we can't, if you want to go the other way, feeling like you can't let something go. If you're just down, you're staying down, but you have no intention of getting back up. You want to stay stuck in this this challenge. There's so many different meanings and layers to this card. I might urge the client to cautiously and carefully try and assess each one of these swords. Look at them. What are they all from? How can we kind of accept them but start to peel them out one by one? There's so many things that can come up. It doesn't have to just be like, we're dead and everything's awful. We're fine, everything's great. You know, sometimes it doesn't work that way. For me, at least, how it comes across. Sometimes this is like, oh man, this could be even worse. Reversed. Oh. So now you're down, but you don't end up and ever feel like you're gonna get back up and you don't want to get back up. I don't know. It's kind of confusing, I know, but there's so much that you can get from the uprights if you don't want to read reversals, or if you do read reversals and you want to incorporate that, that's great. But I definitely feel like the analogy that I gave of a tree and its branches and its roots and kind of taking a look at the tree, it's the same tree, it's the same thing, but this little root kind of went way over here, and I know that it's still connected, it's just underground, it's underneath the surface. So, totally different meanings reversed. So I do change the meaning. I like the Nine of Swords reversed. I feel the Ten of Swords is worse than the Death card. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I kind of feel that way as well, but worse in what way? When I see the Death card come up in a spread, you're right. I do kind of go like, oh, the Death card. Hey, how you doing? And when I see the Ten of Swords, I'm like, ooh. All right, let's go into this. We've got this. We've got this, client. We've got it. We can do this. So, Phantom Punk 007. I've been to so many tarot streams that I now see more than one threes of swords and threes of cups as a third party situation, especially if paired with the 10 of swords and the 9 of swords. Okay, so that's an interesting topic that I didn't really have on here. We won't spend too much time on it, but I love watching other people read. I love reading tarot books and seeing other people's associations to the card. Any sort of added layer or connectivity I can have to some thought about the card, it just makes it that much better. So I definitely recommend, if you are a reader, if you want to read professionally, or if you're really trying to get invested in tarot, learning just the basic meanings, to me, is not enough to continue. I feel like always trying to connect with your cards. So pulling spreads for yourself and seeing how you can associate things that you're going through or the people around you are going through to the cards, but also reading different books because other people approach the tarot in such a different way. A really great example is that my monthly card is the Wheel of Fortune reversed. Sis, I know, right? That's a big card. And then to have it reversed. So I was like, I don't know how I'm connecting to this. Like, there's certain things that I'm going through that I'm connecting to, but not really, and whatever. And then I was reading, I think it's Mary Kay Greer's Tarot Reversals, and there's one little sentence that was like, Wheel of Fortune also talks about seasonal allergies or seasonal infections or, things like that. And this month, out of nowhere, y'all, I was getting the worst allergies, and I don't get allergies, but that added thought about the Wheel of Fortune card being seasonal, and I definitely had a prior connection to the Wheel of Fortune being seasonal or having different directions, talking about all 4 elements, but it definitely does talk about the wheel of change and the difference. I do now associate it very much with how different climates or different seasons or different changes in direction or, time throughout the calendar year can bring upon us and our body different influences. And I was like, what? And by reading that, it definitely made sense for me and what I'm going through. So if you just kind of learn the cards and stick to your own meanings and don't ever want to continue to build upon the foundation of what you can relate each card to, I definitely think you're doing yourself, and if you read for other people, your clients, a little bit of a disservice. Just, I don't want to be rude. I don't want to make it that way, but I always feel like the more you do, the more you read, the more you learn, the bigger, the connectivity to the cards and to the decks can be. So this is the Wheel of Fortune. If you don't read tarot or you're new or something, you wanted to know what the Wheel of Fortune was. So you can see that there's the four here. But anyways, Let me see what else. So Phantom was talking about, you know, how other people, you've watched enough streams and how other people associate threes with a third party. There's a couple readers that I watch, and actually Skylar and I were just watching Aphrodite. He's like this really cute, like, gay kid that does streams on Twitch. He like loves Sailor Moon, and he does these like celebrity readings, and the way that he reads is fascinating because he just kind of throws half of his freaking deck out, and he'll say something like, oh, the Ace of Swords means this or that, or the star reversed means something going wrong in the limelight, or, you know, someone looking at you bad. And for a second I kind of listen to how he's associating to that card, and I think, what does that mean? And then if I think about it a little bit more, I'm like, oh, okay, actually I can see how he got from that to that, and the way that he connected to the cards is so different than me, but it works for him, and I can see how his meanings definitely do resonate sometimes for me. But I thought, oh, I never would have thought of that in that way, kind of thing. So watching other readers, if they're out there, if they're available, is really helpful. I think, or again, reading other literature with people and how they connect to the cards is really helpful. I know you're right. It's our job to make sure we don't freak out the clients. Okay. Nikki said, yes, Sammy, that's what I mean. The card meanings isn't set in stone, black and white. Sometimes you pick pick up something of the card intuitively, or something grabs more attention. Basic meaning, yes, but so much more at the same time. Lots of branches, yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, okay, so Nikki said, plus some books only tell us how the author sees the card meaning, although we ourselves might have another meaning, like Melissa Sanova's description of the Five of Pentacles changed my view about it. Exactly. So, and I feel like there is a little bit, you know, Melissa never says in her books, like, this is the end all be all, this is it. But in some of the reversal meanings, I have seen her say, like, some people would think it's reversed of the upright, but it actually means this. And that can be a little bit intimidating for people who go, well, actually, I read this in a spread and it did mean the opposite for me. And so there is, like, making sure that you're reading other people's interpretations and that you're kind of learning and developing, again, more layers, or like growing more branches, watering the tree. You guys take the time to water the tree. But at the same time, you know, you kind of always have this mindset of like, I'll take what I want and I'll leave the rest. And that when it comes up in a reading, I'm not going to doubt myself. If I feel like the card is saying this, that's what I'm going to go with. I read the tarot elements description and it was so positive. However, I read it always pretty negative. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so yeah, and it's not always the same every time too, right, Nikki? Because you can get the Five of Pentacles reversed, but it could be, you know, in the it could be in the your tool, like, let's say that the tarot position is like, what's going well, or something like that, and you get it reversed and you always read it pretty negatively. There's something about it that you would always kind of probably spin to make it something going well. Or what do we look at that this this challenging aspect of this card is bringing forth to in a positive manner. Oh god. Okay, so Carmen said, can you talk little about podcasts? I have no idea what it is, but I keep hearing about it. Yeah, so really quick, because there's so much other stuff that we're gonna go into, but I run a podcast with my best friend Skylar. It's available on most any podcast platforms. You can listen to it on Spotify, on Apple, on Anchor or Castbox or anything like that, as well as I've started in the last 2 weeks posting the podcast on YouTube, which I've heard a lot of you guys thank me for, because you don't really use podcast platforms and it's easier for you to click on the YouTube video, whatever you want. It doesn't really matter to me. I think we're on like 14 or 15 episodes at this point, so we've covered a lot, and we do focus a lot. It's called Speaking of Which. It's almost always linked in the description box below, but you can also search my channel while this video is live, because it might not be in the description box. And so you can go to my channel and kind of find the latest, probably in the last week or two. Speaking of which, you'll see the thumbnail is me and my best friend Skylar. And there will be links and stuff in the description to that. So thank you. You said you liked the name. Yeah, so it's called Speaking of Witch. I identify very much as like a witch pagan, but Skylar is more so on like a Buddhist perspective of things. And it's really just based around whatever we want to giggle a ton about, but we always have tarot decks or oracle decks that we're shuffling up, and we have some sort of mindset around what we're talking about with the podcast, but it's really just kind of a fun way for us to connect and giggle about metaphysical topics. So if you're interested in that, guys, go watch. If you guys want to support the podcast, you definitely can. You go to the Anchor platform. We do have one person that gives us $1 a month, and it's so sweet. If not, just listening and commenting makes us really happy, because that's really all we care about. Quick question about chapter are we on in the book club? Okay, so we're reading, again, I'm going to get back to this, but if you want to go to the Witchy Facebook group, it is facebook.com/groups/witchy book club, and there you'll find where we're at, but we will be live streaming the last portion of Melissa Sanova's Tarot Elements, and that will be from chapters 8 through the rest of the book. So we did the first half, and now we're going to be doing the last half. The live stream is August 5th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we will be covering the second half of the book, chapter 8 through the end. And that will take place on August 5th at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You bet. The second half of the book. Okay, thank you. So, Phantom, doubt. I really have to stop doubting my readings, too. They resonate with people I read for, but the stories sometimes are so wild that I'm almost afraid to bring it up. Glad that I just go with it. Yes, exactly. It's just kind of going whatever it is. Thank you so much, Nikki, for putting... Oh, your mom stopped by. That's nice. Go say hi and spend time with mom. Okay, so let's get back to how I read tarot, or elements of the tarot that I connect with. So, we talked about that. Okay, so we talked about reversals. Is there anything else that you guys have a question about that you'd like to focus on reversals? Because I know I didn't cover it all, and I might have not explained it as eloquently as I could have in maybe an edited kind of pre-recorded reading or video, but I liked the element of you guys being able to ask me questions as I'm going through it. So let's talk about a little bit about the difference to me between the major arcana and the minor arcana, and we're going to kind of leave the courts aside for now. So the major arcana, and if you don't know tarot that well, I'm going to pull out a couple major arcana cards, so bear with me. If you guys have any questions, write them now. Here's this one, here's this one, here's this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. Let's do this one. Da-da-da-dum. Ooh, I love that card. Bear with me, guys. I'm kind of setting this up really quickly so I can make this a little bit. So, okay. Oh, wow. I have way too many of these cards here. Shit. Okay. So, sorry, guys. Okay. Hi, Angie. Oh, this is a big live stream. Okay. So, here we have some of the major arcana. So you can see there's the Hermit, the Devil, the High Priestess, the Wheel of Fortune, the Moon. So we have these written down in the regular Rider-Waite. You know, this is the Centennial Edition. So we have these very big cards, right? And then we have the court cards, which we're leaving for now. And then we have the minors, which is like the Roman numeral and then the element. So we have the swords. This is the two of swords, the 10 of wands. I can't see. 8 of cups, the ace of wands. Oh, I pulled a lot of wands. The 8 of wands, the 2 of cups. I just picked whatever was there, right? So we have these, which are our minor arcana, and we have these, which are our major arcana. So these two things to me are the same, but are very different as well. So when I throw a tarot spread, right? And let's say I get these and these cards in a spread. I will know that these cards are what I've been described as to my grandma, by my grandma, as the really, really cards. So both are very important and both are definitely to be acknowledged and to be explained and to go through, and definitely can feel like a big deal. Like the Two of Swords is a minor arcana, but can feel like such a freaking big deal compared to the moon card, you know? But in the end, I feel like these are phases that we go through, or these are more like situational cards, and this is like a blanket overall, like a bird's eye view, or definitely a kind of really, really energy. So I do definitely give the minor arcanas more weight or more kind of focus. If I throw a spread and I see three major arcanas and the rest are minor arcana, I definitely do take a look at where those cards are that are the majors, and I know that that's the energy that is going to be the bigger end game influence, or the bigger area to kind of make sure that I'm really diving into. These cards are the indicators for me that are the areas in which the reading, the client needs more explanation or needs more assistance with, because that's in the end, even though these cards might feel like a bigger deal because it's things that are happening right now or things that are happening in a situational mindset, this is what is going to be transformative. This is what's really going to leave a longer lasting kind of influence. Not always. Again, this is just very general. This is very like normally. Like, if I had to explain it, this is how I would try to explain it. Again, everything's subject to change situation wise or client wise or whatever, but at the same time, when I do see major arcana cards in a spread, I do hold them as weighting more. Like, these are the bigger branches or the bigger roots of the tree, then these are like the little leaves and the little sticks and twigs or the little berries that have popped up. And so they all mean something. They all matter to the forest. We're just gonna stick with this metaphor, you guys. But I would say that a big branch hanging over a road is going to mean more than a little twig up at the very top that definitely seems like a big deal when it's spring and everything's blooming, but it might not hold as much weight. Now, there certainly are minor arcana cards that do definitely, I feel like, kind of feel and can feel more traumatic or feel like more intense than some of these cards. You take the Sun card and try to put it, like we said, next to the Ten of Swords, and my influence sometimes does go more towards the Ten of Swords, which is a minor arcana card. But I have always been taught, and I've always read with the kind of knowledge or influence, that the major arcanas hold much more truth and much more weight than the minor arcana. Um, yeah, I feel like I don't know if I call this. I don't. Oh my God, you just called it sick. Thank you so much for saying that you love this live, but I hope you don't get in trouble at work. Well, I stayed home to do homework and laundry. I skipped school, but watching a live is a plus. Yay, Angie. Okay. Yvette said, I look at the majors as something that the universe has in store for you that can be changed depending on your choices. Interesting. I kind of feel that way about all of the cards, although I do feel kind of the opposite, actually. I feel like God. I'm trying to stay on topic, but there's a lot of things that I'm like, do I want to talk about this? Do I not want to talk about this? Myself as a reader, and just as a spiritual person, I feel like this is going to come into my own spirituality influences. I feel like our souls are karmic, and we have traveled and lived things, different lives, different times, different places. So I feel like we come into this world, and I feel like our soul almost has some sort of contract of like, here's what I learned a lot last lifetimes. Here's what I want to focus on and evolve and kind of go through and learn. And that ultimately, however we choose to go about it, is really our free will. And a lot of that has to do with, to me, the minor arcana. So we might be going through very much a hermit energy, right? But the way that, and it's maybe our soul's lesson to kind of learn how to spend time by ourselves, or learn how to kind of research and find the answers within ourselves. But we might be going through very much a Two of Cups and Eight of Wands moment. This is the way we choose to navigate ourselves around this certain circumstance. It's not so much even an event as more of like a, here's the big lesson, here's the big energy that's being presented to you by the universe, and how are you choosing to kind of manipulate, and all those are backwards, how are you choosing to kind of manipulate or to assess this with the different elements, whether it be the heart, whether it be the mind, whether it be the body, or whether it be the spirit, whether it be, our communication, whatever it is. These to me are the elements and the tools in which our body connects to things that are happening on a bigger cosmic, karmic, or kind of like bird's eye view way. Does that make sense? Again, that's not the end all be all, but if I had to kind of break down the difference between the minor and the major arcana, when I'm reading a spread, if I see and I throw all court cards in minor arcana and one major arcana comes up, to me, that's the bread and butter. That's where we're gonna find the big outcome, or the bigger picture here. And then all of these are like the clues and the puzzle pieces and the terminology to kind of navigate of what's really going on here and how our soul's evolving. So to me, that's a good way to leave that. I don't think anyone's commented in a while. Okay, wait, hold on. Maybe you haven't, I just missed it. So, okay, Phantom Punk 007 said, I noticed that a lot of people usually ask for time frames, which is kind of hard to predict in a way. Free will, how do you handle those questions? That is a great question. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of like an instance to talk about, but really I actually don't get that question in readings that much, and mostly it's because right now I'm only offering video recorded readings. So let's say you choose my Astrological Association spread, but there is a part in the notes where a lot of people will put their sun, moon, and rising, because that definitely helps me to kind of get a better energy for you. But let's say they do ask me a question like, hey, I really want to move. I'm thinking about moving across country. Is this a good idea? There just really isn't that many people who buy readings from me that are like looking for specific answers, and they don't really come up with time limits. If they do, like, let's say I am reading for a friend, or I'm doing an on the fly reading or something, and I ask them like, is there something that you want to know? And they do kind of give me a time limit, looking for some sort of time limit. A lot of the times, the cards themselves, depending on what number it is, will give me an idea. So let's say somebody wants to know about making the move, like I said, and we get the Four of Coins reversed. So immediately my intuition would tell me 4 months, and if you try and go any more than 4 months, you might run into some issues with finances. It's going to be really important for you to save and get your ducks in a row, and for you to really make sure that you are, crossing all your T's and dotting your I's, and making sure you have a job, and make sure you have a place to stay, and that you're not just kind of winging it. A lot of the times the number of the suit for me will give me an instant kind of time frame. Sometimes this could be weeks, sometimes this could be months, sometimes it could be years, sometimes it could be in between somewhere. But I was just saying 4 months as as an example. But if it's something, it could come across as weeks or years or whatever. But I do kind of use the numbers as a key. If it's a major arcana, I might handle it in a different way. Sometimes spirit just kind of tells me, or there might be other cards around it that are influencing it that kind of lend me to get more information. Like I'm trying to give an example, because I feel like that That might be helpful. So, okay, so let's just say I got the devil card, right? And someone's trying to ask me, these situations are so hard to explain. Okay, because there's so much factors that go into reading. So, okay, so let's say someone says, when should I move? When is a good time? You know, I never tell somebody what to do. That's first of all. But let's say they're saying, like, what do you think is a good time frame? And the devil card comes up. I would tell them more so that it's not my place to tell you when, is more a place for me to tell you what to focus on during the process of planning and moving and even afterwards. And I would talk a lot about the things that bind us, the things that we feel like we're addicted to, the things that we're going to have a hard time leaving behind once we cross. If there's any sort of challenging kind of mannerisms or people that we feel like we're clinged to, or things that we feel like or a job that we feel like we're a slave to, if we're having a hard time letting go of that, I might direct them and say the time limit in this situation is not as important as the how to and the focus behind what's actually happening. Don't worry so much on the specifics of when as far as what the bigger picture of this is. So sometimes I might urge them away from the logistics of when and kind of say something along the lines of like, what do you feel behind this move, and what really do you feel like is holding you back from completely transforming into the move and kind of going all hearted into it in a positive way, you know? Or what are some of the things that you might be moving out of state for that don't really reflect positivity in your life, you know? Things like that. So I hope that answered that question. Again, everything is so situational when it comes up in a reading, so I'm trying my best to give examples on what I'm saying. Lady Knight of Avalon says, how far ahead would you say we can look into the cards? Oh God, that's such a good question. I don't know if I feel comfortable answering that. I will tell you for myself what I normally will kind of tell my clients. So I feel like if you go into a reading saying with a focus of what does my next 10 years look like, then the cards will lend you information on the next 10 years. Excuse me, I don't focus my readings like that, but I do tell my clients that if you get one of my two larger spreads, which is my Grandma Go-To spread or my Astrological Association spread, which is anywhere from 11 to 13 cards, and we cover so many different aspects of your life, like work and finance and relationship and things that are blocking you, your subconscious, your home, your health, your secrets and transformation. We like cover so much in those readings that I say that those readings are any good for up to 6 months to a year. I don't like when people get those readings again, like multiple times within a 6-month span, because I feel like that's kind of the time frame, 6 months to even a year of influence for my readings is kind of where my like mindset is at. I do believe you can look as far in as you want. I don't really like so much to use the cards as predictive tools as you know, psychological or emotional evaluation in ways that we can kind of bring awareness to the things that we feel, think, say, and do in our lives, and how we can kind of bring forth what we need to focus on and go into more of a positive manner. So that's kind of, hold on, I'm gonna sneeze. Excuse me. Excuse me. So I would say for my readings, I do tell my clients the bigger ones are up to 6 months to a year of energy influence. Now, if something shakes the roof off your house, or just like totally crushes you, or totally like some big crazy influence happens and you're like, yo, it's only been 7 months, can I get another reading? Things are crazy. I'd be like, yeah, definitely. Like if you feel like if something really intense is happening and everything has changed, yeah, come on, let's redo it. Let's read it. Let's see what's going on here. But for the most part, I find that personally, 6 months to a year is where my bigger spread readings are focusing on. But I do feel like everybody kind of associates with tarot in different ways. Some people read it more so for just what's going on right now. Some people want to know what my week is going to be like, or what time, you know, I think it's more so whatever you're going into the reading with. If you want to know about, if you want to try and figure out how you feel like you're going to pass away and decades and decades and decades from now. I do feel like maybe you could use the cards that way, but I don't. So I hope that answered the question. Angie, I'm kind of wondering when you know you are ready to read for others. I'm still trying to learn how to read for them myself. So that's a good question. And there are still some stuff I want to bring up, but that's a good question. I'm going to have to take a quick pee break in a second because it's, you know, it's only been an hour and 15 minutes, but apparently I can't hold my bladder. I would say that, I would say just go for it. I would say find the people that you feel really comfortable with or that you feel like you trust or that you feel like would kind of be up for it, but that you feel like you can kind of just take your time with. And I find actually that I have a difficult time reading for the people I'm really close to in my life. I find that I really start doubting or feeling like I'm pulling from things that I already know about them. I can read for them, I know that I can, but I did kind of think that I was doubting myself a lot more in the beginning if I were to read, let's say, for my best friend Allison, because a card would come up and I'd be like, oh, well, clearly this means this, right? You know, and I feel like we weren't really getting super deep and meaty because I already knew so much about her. So that definitely did kind of hold me back actually when I was reading for other people. I would honestly, you guys, I would just say go into it, be super honest, be super open with the people that you're reading for, and just say, can I learn? Can I please read for you? Is there anything that you're wanting guidance on, or can we focus on something specific? Or I might read like I said in the beginning of this live stream, I might use my guidebook. I'm just kind of trying to learn and navigate through. You know, I might rely on you to give me feedback a lot. Like, here's what this card means. How does it associate with you? Give it back to the people and give them a chance to try and find how they connect to it, because that might really lead you on a great path to talk about with them instead of just trying to guess. You know, it's more so about the conversation between you and the client if you're doing it in person. And I honestly would just say do it. Do it as much as you can, as often as you can, and really just be super honest about the fact that you're trying to learn how to read for other people. And the more you do it and the more you practice, it's really helpful. And so I would just say, honestly, as much and as quick as possible, just start reading for other people. Even if it's a 1-card pull, even if it's a 3-card pull, it doesn't have to be some crazy big, like I'm talking about, 13-card spread. It could be literally just a 1-card interpretation for them for their day. Are there any questions that's a no-no in tarot? Pregnancy and hospital surgery seem taboo with most readers. So I can tell you my ethics as far as reading goes. I really have kind of like a contract between my spirit guides to not give me certain clients or certain situations in which to kind of bring in. I really don't want to deal with somebody, God, that's kind of it's a hard question. I have certain things that I have made agreements with my spirit guides to not bring into me. So, I will never tell somebody else what they should or shouldn't do. I will never tell them, medical or, trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, like I would never tell somebody and give them medical advice on something they have to do. Now health and body does come up a lot in my readings, especially in my Astrological Association. And so I might get influences or things, but I will always word it in I'm getting the sense that there might be issues with the lungs, or, you know, you might be having some challenges with breathing or with kind of feeling like you're getting enough air or enough oxygen. I suggest you look into it. I suggest you go to a professional, or I suggest you maybe have an awareness of what that might connect to you. But I would never tell somebody that they're, you know, they have cancer, or that they, you know, that I know how to fix their body, or I know what's right or wrong for them. Hell no, I am not a medical professional in any sense. But if health or body does come up in that way, it will always make sure, like if I have a very, very strong feeling on something, I will bring it up, but I will always be very clear about I do not know about this. I don't know why I'm saying this. This seems very, very important. My spirit guides won't leave me alone about it. So I suggest you look into it. Don't be afraid. Don't be scared. But like, just go get yourself checked out. You know, there's no harm in finding out that you're okay or you're not, because if you wait, you know, and that rarely happens. But if it does, I will never ever tell somebody what to do medically, because it's just, I don't know enough about it and it's not my place. And at the end of the day, they're tarot cards. They're ink on cardstock, and who am I to be able to tell somebody what and how to do with their body? That makes sense. Pregnancy does come up, and surgeries do come up. So, but it comes up more so in like a feeling. So it's like, are you pregnant? Are you pregnant? You know, like, is that what I'm seeing here? Because I have the Empress, I have the Two of Cups, I have, you know, the Queen of Pentacles, and, you know, the Ace, whatever, you know. And I have like all of these cards here. Are you pregnant? You know, oh my god, my hair's being so weird, I'm sorry. So yeah, I will bring it up, but then again, right now my client readings are video recorded for the most part, so I might leave it and then kind of come back to it. Yeah, so that's one advice. I only ever read for myself and my husband because I feel awkward reading for others. Dead serious? Woo! Hi, how are you? I love your Instagram so much. You make me laugh and smile so much. That's interesting that you only read for yourself and for your husband. That's cool too. Some people don't really want to read for other people. Some people just want it to be a tool for themselves as like self-exploration or self-awareness and development. And that's totally cool. But for the people who do want to read for other people, I would just honestly say pick someone that you love and you trust, like your husband or a best friend or a coworker that you know, whatever, and just do it. Get into it, you know? Okay, so we've covered so much already, but I feel like there's so much else that I want to go over. So, tarot spreads, right? We kind of danced around this a little bit. Ugh, I'm going to bring this out. Hold on, I have to like really scooch myself over here. I've showed this multiple times on my channel spreads. Okay. I have this, and then I need to get my excuse me. Okay, and then I have to get this. Okay, so tarot spreads. Tarot spreads are very helpful. I learned how to read tarot with tarot spreads. It is really helpful for me to know where I'm focusing a certain card, but I already kind of explained to you a little bit when I'm doing like a very spontaneous, let's just throw the card reading. Those are very fun, but I definitely don't rely on that as my main way to read for people. So I have this spread book. And I haven't actually accessed it in a really long time, but I do recommend that you get yourself a book where you just have your spreads. And what I'll do is I will create my own spreads. I will find spreads on Pinterest, or if the people I follow on Instagram have spreads, and I put them all in here that I like or that I've used or that I want to use. And I will definitely, tarot spreads also help me learn. A spread book is a great idea to have. Yeah, so this is basically my book of spreads. And I've used ones outside of this book, but I will write, you know, who I found it for, what it's good for, what are the spread position meanings, how do I lay out the cards. You know, like this is Imogen Walters' Bedtime Tarot and Oracle spread. I found it from her Instagram way back in the day when I used to stalk the hell out of her. You know, it's a 4-card spread. I like put it into a little pillow because it looked cute, and then I wrote out what the card positions mean. So let's just kind of talk about this one because it's an easy 4-card spread. So if you're wanting to focus on bedtime, let's say it's the end of the day and you want to throw a card for yourself, throw some cards for yourself, and you want to focus on the previous day, like what happened during the day. This would be a good spread to refer to. The first position or the first card thrown would be the pit of my day, the obstacle, the difficulty, the struggle. And so let's say the 3 of Pentacles shows up. You'll know what the basic meaning of the card is or your intuitive feeling on it. We talked about the threes, somebody associating it as a third party. So maybe you were forced to work in a group at work, or maybe you were feeling like you had to reach out for help, or that you felt like that you weren't working that great as a team, or somebody really wasn't communicating well with you and another person. Whatever it is, you would take where the focus of that tarot spread is, and that position is the pit of the day, the obstacle, difficulty, or the struggle, and then taking the meaning and the feelings and the imagery and the intuition that you have from this card and kind of relating it to that circumstance. And what's easy is that you already went through your day. You know what happens. You already know what happened. Instead of trying to look towards the future, this is kind of really nice because you already know what happened. So it's like trying to connect the dots, really, on how this card fit into what you just experienced in the last 24 hours. The second would be the peak of the day, the highlight, the accomplishments. And let's just say, I don't like that one. That one's kind of, let's say you got the Ten of Cups. The Ten of Cups. Everything's beautiful and lovely, and we're prancing around, and there's rainbows, and blah, 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 blah. The highlight, the peak of the day, could literally be that you saw a rainbow and you felt like you were, being smiled at by God. Whatever it is, it could be literal, it could be however you interpret this card. Happiness and joyful, like you felt like everything was just clicking and that your family was supportive or whatever. So associating the cards to specific instances or specific focuses is really helpful than just kind of like throwing the cards and trying to say like, well, what does this mean? Tarot spreads are really kind of the fertilizer, or what was I gonna say? I'm trying to associate it to our tree. So yeah, definitely this is like the forest, right? And the paths in which we go down the nature walks as we're looking at each of the trees, right? Does that make sense? So yeah, so this is, I love making and creating my own spreads. This whole book is really filled. See, I had a calendar that had tarot spreads. I cut it out and put it in here. Here's my Astrological Association spread that's available on my website that I created. All the little card positions and meanings and the zodiac signs that I associate with them. So this is definitely really helpful to kind of, if you want to focus the tarot cards on a certain aspect. This one's Light in the Dark. This was by Lavender Moon, and I found it on Pinterest. I always like to kind of source where I found them from. This is one that I made. This is a new moon in Gemini tarot and oracle spread. 4-card spread I created for the new moon in Gemini. So tarot spreads are a really big and important part of the way that I read. It really does give me kind of again, another layer or a focus, a trail to walk down as I'm looking at each of these trees on the path. So we have all of our tarot cards as trees, but I'm walking down this certain nature path with the intention of, I want to find out what my client needs to know. And here are all the trees that I'm seeing in my path, and what am I recognizing, and what do I feel from each of these trees down the nature walk, okay? So tarot spreads, I feel like there's a lot more that we could go into with tarot spreads, but I think we'll move on from there. But it does, each of the spread positions definitely do influence the reading a lot. This is my most powerful magical tool, which is just my bullet journal and my book of shadows. In the very beginning here, I have the readings that are like my main go-to readings, which is my Astrological Association spread, my Grandma Go-To spread, my Spirit Connection spread, my Manifestation Magic spread, my Mercury retrograde reading, and that is it. Those are my like main ones that I like to focus on, and actually I have 2 more coming to my site and that I'm really trying to bring in as a daily kind of spread reading. My go-to for reading for myself or for others in a very quick, informative, very like easy, quick way is my 4-card spread. I think made a video about this at some point on my channel, but I will explain it to you guys. It's real easy. It is 4 cards, right? So we're going to shuffle them up. And I already told you how I shuffle, what I focus on. Let's say I'm doing this for myself for the day. All right, I'm going to let go of all of my energies, my assumptions, anything that I have that's I feel like is holding me back from getting the clearest messages. I'm asking my spirit guides to step forth, to connect with me, to be here, to guide me. Right? I feel like I'm good. I'm going to overhand. What do I need to know today? What do I need to know? I can see some of my cards are like flipped the wrong way. Whatever. So I'm shuffling up and I throw 4 cards. The first one will be what I'm going through now. What is me in the now? What is the present moment me experiencing, feeling, whatever it is, and that would be the first card, right? So the first position talks about me in the now. So right now I have the 6 of Pentacles. It's all about give and take of resources, of energy, of physical transaction between money, about relationships, about anything secure. This is an earthly suit. So right now it really is just about me giving my resources to you, you guys asking me questions, me trying to relate them as best as possible. There's a give and exchange, and there's always one person to me right now that is going to come from a little bit more of a I don't want to say a higher place because I'm not better than anybody, but it's more so like I'm seated in the position of me being able to provide, me being able to help, but in return, your guys' questions are helping me and things like that. So this is the give and take of me now. Then the next position is about what's blocking me, what are challenges, or maybe some things that I feel like are kind of holding me back right now. And I got the Page of Cups. So we haven't gone into court cards yet, but let's just say I'm associating this with coming from a very sensitive, maybe I'm having a hard time connecting to the emotional side of this because I'm really trying to block the emotions out and just come from a very like informative, very clear, concise manner of relaying my information. So right now I don't feel very connected to my heart or the way that I am connecting in a compassionate or empathetic way. I do feel a bit robotic right now, so that could be why I'm feeling a bit blocked in this sense, but it's only because I'm trying to make a lot of, I'm trying to make things very clear and concise in this live stream, and that's okay. So then the next position, so we went 1, I don't know how to do it backwards. 1 is me in the now. 2 is what's blocking me or what my challenges are. 3 is my tools. What are some things that are strengths for me? What are some things that I can look at to kind of give me some pep talk or like, here you go, you're amazing. What are my strengths? And I got the Emperor reversed. And I'm going to interpret this in as a sense of I come from a place of knowledge, and this platform is power. It's powerful, and it does give me a resource to be able to command an audience or to command views or command resources and things like that. But my strength for the Emperor reverse comes off very much as in I don't want to take a stance of this is my way or the highway. I want to definitely remind you and remind me that this is just what works for me. I'm not going to tell you how to do something, but I might give you the knowledge or the resources to kind of feel like you have a starting path on things. So, even though the Emperor reverse can sometimes come off as a harsh dictator type way, because it's in the position for me on what my strength is, to me it's kind of a reminder that I am not those things and that I don't want to be those things. So maybe this is a way for me to remind you guys again that this is just what works for me. Anything that you choose to do is great, and I hope that this is helpful and doesn't make you feel like you have to do it the way that I do it, but that I am coming and I have to recognize that my platform that I'm on is a sense of power, and it does lend me definite eyes on me, and sometimes people do really look for me for questions and answers on things. And so the last one of the spread would be my subconscious. So things I know but I don't know that I know, or maybe things that I've been daydreaming about, or things that's been coming out in dreams, or things that are really behind the surface. This does come out very shadow work for me. So the 4th card would be the King of Cups. And really my first intuition with this card is that I'm stepping back into a very much a mediumship role in my life right now. the energy of spirit has not been around me as much since the beginning of the year. I had a really a hard time. Um, and so I'm feeling a lot more like myself, and my client readings have had a lot more spirit influence. The last one I did last night, at the very end, I was like seeing things in the room. I was feeling things. I felt very connected emotionally to the client, even though I was looking at my bed with the cards on the and my camera. Like, I wasn't talking, or I wasn't actually interacting with another person, but I felt like my spirit could connect to their energy and their spirit. And I can see that kind of snowball happening again, where I'm feeling sensations on my body. The King of Cups to me is like such a powerful connector to the heart and the emotions, and being able to be empathetic and compassionate. And I'm seeing that because I'm talking about tarot, and what happened to me last night in my reading. Like, I literally was seeing like flashes like out of the side of my vision and things like that, and things like moving around the cards, that subconsciously I'm picking up that I know that spirit is kind of coming out full force. That was a little mini reading of what and how I would associate with my 4-card spread. So that's kind of my go-to. That's kind of like what I'll do as like a quick and dirty reading for myself. I might use that as a focus, like, how is my health going? But I'll still use those same positions. Me in the now about my health. What's blocking me about my health? What can I use that's positive, that are tools, that are strengths about my health, and things in my subconscious? So I definitely love to use this 4-card spread, and I can use it for any sort of focus that I want. And this is how, this is how that would look, kind of thing. I think it's showing up right for you. So this would be card 1, card 2, card 3, and card 4. Anybody have any questions? I use that card spread for myself a lot. Or if someone says, like, hey, can you do a reading for me? And I don't have a lot of time, or they're not paying me, or we're just kind of going into like a quick and dirty reading. That's the 4 card that I will throw for them. It's my go-to spread, I guess. Daily spread. So I guess, that's a great spread. Thank you. Okay, so I do want to talk about suits. I want to talk about court cards. I want to talk about regular meanings versus intuition and using your intuition. And I want to focus on spirit influence as well. Those are the things on my list that we haven't gotten to yet that I want to talk about. Will you post those spreads visually on your Instagram later, Sammy? Sure. I will post them in my story. I don't really post to Instagram. I definitely should. All right, I'll make a post later on Instagram with that 4-card spread. Okay, so I will make a post on my Instagram later today with that specific 4-card spread. So if you guys want it, and then I'll share it to my story. If you're not following me on Instagram, be sure to follow me. It's at Cloud9 Studios. It's all spelled out, or you can just search my name, Samantha Menzo. Hi, Sammy. Love this. Sorry I missed most of it, but we'll definitely watch it later. Hi, Rooted Empath. Hello. Or Facebook. Yeah, I'll share it on my Facebook too. Quickie spread. Can't spell. Sorry. Quick and dirty. Oh, man. This live is packed full of info like a little mini boot camp. Thank you. Okay, so we've covered a lot. If you guys are coming in just now, please stay put. I'm going to go pee real quick because it wouldn't be a Sammy live stream if I couldn't hold my bladder. So I'm going to go pee really quick. Get your questions in order. Maybe talk in the chat really quickly about some things that you think that you struggle with, or that you might want to know how I approach in a certain way to tarot. There has been some really great questions already, but I have a lot still that I want to cover, and I feel like I'm actually making really good time for this, only being an hour and 40 minutes into the live stream. So get your questions together. I'm going to go pee real quick, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back attack. I wonder what you guys are. Yay, okay, so I'm gonna grab my water. Oh, just leaked. Okay, I feel like pretty good about what we've covered so far, but there are a lot more that I want to go into. So, and again, you guys, I'm not going to cover everything. There is no way. I'm really trying my best to kind of break down the basics of different areas that I feel like are important when it comes to tarot and me connecting to tarot and how I read the tarot, how I associate to tarot. Let me go back really quick. Hold on. Wow, you guys really, we're commenting a lot really quickly. So Victoria, hi, how are you? I'm waiting for my coffee to brew. I just got up. I struggle with tarot meanings. I'm sorry, girl. I get it. There's a lot to learn. And maybe at some point I can develop some sort of like mini course, like a mini kind of crash course to tarot. That would be super helpful for you guys. It's not something that I have the time for now, but it is something that I definitely would want to put together because I feel like I could explain it in a very easy way. And then let you guys kind of take the reins from there. But I get it. It's very involved. It's very much balance between knowing the meanings and letting your heart and your mind kind of guide you where you need to go. Oh yes, you need a hashtag for this. We should think of one. A hashtag. What do you mean a hashtag? Like for what? Like hashtag how I read tarot? Tarot basics? Tarot, because it's not really the basics. I don't know. Yeah, I can put a hashtag for sure. And if you guys want to talk about this or do your own videos or do your own live streams, hell yeah, I would totally love to watch that. I love when people talk because like even with the tarot reversals, a lot of people and a lot of readers have the mindset around I don't read with reversals, it's too intimidating or it's too much, or I will just know what they mean. I will just know if it's reversed or not. And I love reversals. I love to use reversals, but I also think that's really cool if you can come from that mind space. So I would definitely love to. Sammy goes in and dives deep. Whoop whoop. Okay, one where we all share what we know and how we understand or read the cards. Yeah, just hashtag how I read tarot. That's it. How I read tarot. Hashtag how I read tarot. That's the title of this live stream, how I read tarot. And I will put the hashtag how I read tarot as well. While she's gone, we should all switch seats. Oh my god. I do that every time she has a restroom break. And coffee done. Yay, okay, everyone's switching seats. She will never notice. What the fuck, you guys? This is so wonderful. So much info and more to come. Okay, so who said yes, Skylar? Is Skylar here? Oh my god, is Skylar here? About reversals. You may have already covered this, but I know some people reset their decks after readings. Do you? No, I don't, because I rely on the way that I shuffle to kind of prompt in the reading that's to come. So actually, I do kind of like have this mental thing that I do when I put the cards back. So like, let's say these are the cards that I read with, right? So I definitely don't just like put them on the top. I have this weird thing where I feel like the deck will tell me where they need to be inserted at. So I kind of will like place each card in a different section. And I feel like I need to space them out, if that makes sense. So that's how I will put the tarot cards back for a reading. And then I will kind of have this like subconscious or sometimes conscious way of being like, thank you, like thanking the deck and then saying like, it's clear, it's reset that way. And then when I come back to use it, I will shuffle it up as I already mentioned. And that is where I'm setting the new energy and focus to what's going to be used next for the focus for the client or myself. How important is staging? Because I don't really stage as much. I feel like as important as you want to make it. I do feel like every so often, at least having some sort of intention put into your deck that you're resetting it. So for me, that is often enough. I don't sage my decks. I do, however, put crystals that I feel like enhances the way that I communicate with the decks. And depending on what crystal meaning or kind of energy it is, that's kind of how I feel, oh, this is kind of a big topic, sorry. So, I always put like talismans or crystals on top of my decks to charge them. or to clear them that way. I don't really sage. I try not to sage in the house because my boyfriend literally hates it. I will use Palo Santo, but that's mostly to kind of clear and sage my workspace and myself. So I will light some Palo Santo, and I will light it very carefully and very slight so that it doesn't overtake and overpower the room. So I do have crystals or talismans that go on top of my working decks. So on top of this, I do have two things. I have a grounding kind of talisman coin that we got from the Witch's Moon. I felt like this was really great for how much I use my Rider-Waite deck. And on the back, it says grounding, feet on the earth, roots digging down, present in the body, mind, and spirit, anchored from my soles to my crown, so mote it be. And I feel like just placing this on top of here is enough to kind of recharge or to ground the energies back into the basic deck. As well as I found this seashell. You guys know I'm really connected to seashells, and it's a spirit message for me and my grandma. So I found this seashell when I was down in Florida, and I painted it blue, similar to the Rider-Waite, and I put I drew the symbol on the back of the cards here. I don't know why I did that, it just felt right. And so I actually use this and keep it right over the deck to kind of ground it as well, and to make it feel like it's connected again to the purity of spirit. As woo-woo as that sounds, you guys, you asked, so that's what I do. This is the only deck that I have that doesn't have a crystal on it, because I feel like those are really powerful tools. So for instance, I have my Goddess Guidance Oracle that I use very, very frequently, and I have a beautiful piece of amethyst on here. So this is how I will recharge or kind of ground my decks, because this amethyst brings in a lot of very calming, very gentle, very kind of like restful energy, because this deck to me is very powerful, it's very fiery, and it's very active, it's very intense. For me personally, this deck is extremely intense with its messages, and I feel like when I'm not using it, it needs to be at rest. It needs to chill, it needs to recoup because of how powerful it is. That's why I have amethyst on here, as well as amethyst is one of my very favorite crystals, and I feel like it definitely is almost like giving it a crystal hug, because I just love amethyst so much. I could explain every single one of these to you, but that's kind of the synopsis of how I recharge or clear my decks. Now, if I have a reading that's really, really heavy or really, really intense, or we're covering some really kind of deep and dark areas, I will absolutely shuffle them up a lot. I will kind of take Palo Santo, or even just kind of keep them higher above the smoke from a candle. Very, very rarely do I feel like I have to do that. And I almost never recharge my crystals underneath the moon. I know that it's powerful to do that. I talked about that in a recent live stream. I have never felt like I needed to do that. I always felt like I would know when a crystal needs to be recharged or is kind of losing its intensity, and what happens is I put it away. So I kind of give it a chance to kind of give it some space, go within, you meditate over there for a little bit, and then when I'm ready to take it out again, I will take it out. I don't know why, that's just me. Okay, so you guys have been commenting a lot. Let me catch up. I'm at the very beginning. For your 4-card spread name. Oh, for 4-card spread name? Sammy reads tarot. Tarot quick and dirty. Yeah, we could do that. Tarot quick and dirty. That's cool. For the spread. Okay. So this live streams hashtag is hashtag how I read tarot. Feel free to make videos. Feel free to write blogs. Feel free to do live streams. Whatever you want to freaking do it. I would love to hear how you guys come with tarot. You don't have to. If nobody does it, that's fine. This is going to be over a 2-hour live stream in itself, so whatever. But if you want to, you can give your thoughts on how I read tarot, as well as the 4-card spread. I better write this down because I'm not going to remember. Hashtag tarot quick and dirty right on IG post. And I'll put the card positions and explain a little bit, very, very little, because you guys can definitely have this as a resource about that. So yeah, tarot quick and dirty. Tarot hashtag check yourself before you wreck yourself. reading. It's probably too long. Oh my God, Nikki. Oh man. Okay, maybe this is a silly question. Heather Lynn Rice, hello, how are you? But are all tarot decks meant to be read based off Rider-Waite meanings or only their own guidebook or however you feel it is right? That is not a silly question. It is a hard question to answer concise. So there are a lot of different ways to interpret tarot. There's a lot of different systems. There's like Thoth, or there is the Rider-Waite interpretations, or there is like Marseille decks, or there's Pip type decks. I mean, there is Lenormand. There is, there's a lot of different systems to tarot. I would say the most commonly used or commonly known would probably be the Rider-Waite version, which is these cards. It's probably the most well-known or most used system. And then every deck creator will either take a certain style and kind of form it around that system, and then also use their own interpretations. So for example, let's take out the Sassy Burrito deck. So here is I'll show you the side-by-side of two cards. I know that this card is to the top. We just talked about it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Come on. We're losing precious time. Oh, yeah, I put them all back. Oh, no. What happened? Mercury retrograde as well as for the fucking planets. I'm back. I don't know what just happened. I really, really don't. Let's get the lighting better again. Oh my God. What happened? Mercury retrograde is testing our patience. Yeah, I was real scared there because I was like, all right, well, am I gonna like just forget it and then my phone will be like recording in my pocket or something? No one called me. I have no idea. I just like lost service because whatever. Anyways, so yeah, let's just say it's buffering another live. What did I do to deserve this? P.S. There's no dumb questions. Yes, actually. All right, I'm going back up because I don't even remember what we were talking about. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so sorry, guys. Bear with me. I'm going back right now because I actually feel like I might have lost a bit of service a while ago, and a lot of the comments seem like I might have missed them. So going back to reversals, there's only one thing I dislike about them. Okay, sorry, you guys. I have to move on. Put crystals in them. I breathe. What were we talking about? Were we talking about kind of the difference between different decks that creators make? Is that what we were talking about? I'm going back to the bottom. If I've missed what you've said or I've missed a comment, please write it again. I did lose service. So, okay, I'm going to show you an example. Let's actually pull one or two more decks influences on the cards here. I'm going to do my best to keep this nice and quick. I just dropped a card. Ugh. It was the Hierophant reversed. Okay, so we are trying to do, hi everybody, to read the guidebook or go back to the writer or go by the Rider-Waite. So I think we're talking about the difference between different decks. Yes, somebody wanted to know if using the meanings for Rider-Waite Smith applied to themed decks. So it depends. But I will show you two different decks interpretations of the same card that I know that are based off of Rider-Waite meaning. But I guess that is kind of confusing. Like if you get a deck and you're not sure like what system they're using, that's a good point. I think that a lot of people might have a hard time figuring it out. Like you might be using a deck for a while and think, wait, this isn't, and then read a Rider-Waite based book and then look at the card and think that this isn't the same thing. I guess it would be hard to learn. Maybe a lot of the guidebooks in the beginning might tell you that it's based off of the same thing. Okay, so here are three different decks with the same card, right? So here's your Rider-Waite card. We already talked about the Four of Pentacles. So we have the Four of Pentacles here for the basic imagery of the Rider-Waite. And you don't have to just read this. Again, like I said, there's Lenormand, there's thought, there's all these systems, but if we're talking about this, right? This is this interpretation. And now here's another deck creator who did the Sassy Burrito deck. I will link the walkthrough and what deck this is down below if I can remember, but this is how this artist has interpreted this energy and this imagery for this card, which is pretty similar. You can see how it is, you know, very, very much very similar on the way that it is formed. And now here is the Fountain Tarot. Same card, same system. I know that they use the Rider-Waite system for a lot of their cards. And this is the Four of Coins for the Rider-Waite. So we see that there is kind of a snow scene, and there's a tent, and the 4 cards are stacked up within the tent here. So thank you, Nikki. So yeah, this is going to have the same sort of basis for what the interpretations were, for what the imagery was sort of kind of foundation-wise set for. But the way that it's interpreted artwork-wise or imagery-wise is coming across very, very different. But the basics, if you were to look up what the 4 of Coins or 4 of Pentacles represents, you would find a lot of the symbology within this image would be very similar to this card, even though the image strays so far away from what the basic imagery is. And that's where getting new decks and learning new decks and experimenting with different images can be very beneficial. It can feel very overwhelming and very kind of maybe it might be nice to start off at first with just one deck and work with one deck, but once you feel a little bit more comfortable exploring other decks and how other creators kind of use the imagery to kind of associate things differently can be very helpful, because you might get a new, again, added layer or element to the home side or the shelter side or the stability side of a place to call a safety net to you, versus just working on money and finances and hold on to money mindset. This does talk a lot about the home and the resources of feeling like we're safe and secure in more of an environmental aspect that this card brings to the table over this interpretation, but it's all can still be linked to the same sort of things. So it really does kind of maybe take a little bit of research if you're going to buy a new deck and you're afraid that it's not going to follow the same system. I will give you an example. The Wildwood Tarot is based off of a little bit different of meanings. Let me see if I can find the 4 of Pentacles, although I do feel like the 4 of Pentacles, I mean, a lot of the imagery does look very similar. This is the 4 of Vessels, the 4 of Cups in the Rider-Waite. I'm not going to find it, but you will find that this imagery does focus. Or don't. That's fine too. There we sort of go. This imagery you will find is going to be very close to the Rider-Waite imagery, but then there's things like you have the Seer. Some of the names are changed, which might be confusing for people. This one, the Court cards, or what sometimes people call as the People cards, are animals. That can definitely make it a little bit more of a challenging or a different layer to things. So it really just does kind of take a little bit of looking and researching into how you're learning and what you're learning and finding a deck that kind of works for you. I was over here trying to focus like... Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go back up a little bit. Yeah, Nikki did put in the comments my walkthrough of the Fountain Tarot and of the Bito Tarot. If you guys are looking at those decks I just showed and you're like, oh my god, what is that deck? The Rider-Waite Smith shows the Devil, a chained individual for the 15th card, but Fantastical Creatures changes the name for the same card using Fenris from the Norse and calls it the Chains. Yeah, so, but I'm sure that I don't have Fantastical Creatures, which is sounding like a very cool deck, but I'm sure that the meanings or the basis for what they built the card on is probably very similar. Lady Knight of Avalon said, I want to do it like Veronica Jude and take a big sketchbook and put as many cards from different decks on the same page and compare them. That sounds really awesome. Yeah, that's really, really cool. No need to thank me every time. My pleasure. I feel like I need to, Nikki. Snag images from the interwebs and print them. Okay, that's a really great idea. Let me see what else. Okay, so that answers that question as best as possible. Let's talk about the suits for a second. There's no walkthrough for the Wildwood Tarot yet by Samantha channel. No, and I don't know why. I don't know if maybe I filmed it, or maybe I opened it up and thought, I don't want to do a walkthrough of this one. Yeah, I don't think that there's a walkthrough of Wildwood, but and I apologize for that. But there are other walkthroughs that you can probably find. So let's talk about the suits, because the suits are really important as well when I am reading, and I've talked about this a lot. I'm gonna actually, let me put these decks back so I don't tip over my camera. Try not to give a nip slip in this outfit. Okay. Un momento. What is a deck that I have up here that shows? All right. Shadowscapes, right? Okay. We're going to talk about suits. I have the Shadowscapes Tarot here as well, but we're going to take a look first at the Rider-Waite. So suits, remember how I talked about breaking down the major arcanas and the minor arcanas, and if I get a lot of majors or a lot of minors in certain aspects of the reading, when I'm looking at the whole spread, when I throw it, I will know and kind of get hints to where the focus is going to be more heavily relying on. And it's the same thing when it comes to suits in a spread, which is why I really, really like decks. I like to work with decks that have an overwhelming color scheme, because color definitely influences the way that my mind kind of clicks into certain messages and meanings. And so when I have a deck that has a very prominent way to kind of associate each of the suits, and what I mean by that is I'm going to pull the aces out so you guys can see the difference. And I'm sure a lot of you here already know all this, but for those of you who are finding this live stream as like a, hey, I just started learning tarot and please help me and I'm confused, maybe this will be something that might help it click for you. So, and again, I'm all over the place. I'm trying my best. Which is part of the downside of doing this on a live stream and not kind of editing and recording this in a concise way. But I did want to have the accessibility of being able to answer things as they came up for you guys. So we're going to take a look, and I did go over this in very much detail in the Witchy Book Club live streams that you guys can access, that are up on my channel when we went over the kitchen table tarot. I'm going to take a sip of water. But breaking down the elements, or the suits, and we're talking about this now with Melissa Sanova's tarot elements. Definitely, we just talked about this. So these are all the aces. These are all the different suits in the minor arcana. So we have the Ace of Pentacles, which represents finances, resources, earth, the physical forms of things, relationships, stability, all of the earthly physical resources, finances, physical, earth. There's also spirit too, but we're dealing with these four here. The Ace of Cups, which is all about love and emotions and empathy, and the way that we kind of share feelings and energy. And this is also very much a spirit-based one to me as well, even though it's water, emotions, and how we flow through things. We have the Wands, which is very much passion and energy and action and movement. And this one I also kind of associate to the body, but in a different way. This is sex. This is kind of our goals, our dreams, our kind of going for it. This is the gas pedal. This ain't no brake. This is the gas pedal in the elements. And this is very fiery and very kind of a spark out of nowhere. And then the Ace of Swords is very much mental, air. This is all about communication back and forth through other people, the way that we write, the way that we read, the way that we commute, the way that we communicate, our thoughts internal, external, and the way that we use words as magic. There's a lot of other things that are associated to these, but that's a good synopsis for things. So I see the aces as the very much the basic elemental energy of that. And this definitely is the groundwork for where I feel like the energy is kind of hanging out in. So let me explain that a little better. If I throw a tarot spread for a client and I get mostly all cards of swords, swords and cups. I throw a 4-card spread and I get 2 swords and 2 cups, right? Depending, again, know that this is me trying to explain this in an understandable way, but everything is subject to change and kind of like situational. But if I throw a spread and we just have swords and cups, if I'm looking at the entirety of the spread, that will influence my messages or my readings or connections to the client, because we don't have any fire and we don't have any earth. We don't have any sort of go or action or like movement or passion or fire, and we don't have anything stable. We don't have anything grounded. We don't have anything resource-wise or money-wise or relationship-wise when it comes to the things that make us feel secure and comforted. Those are out of the picture. So I know that we're dealing with energies that are coming across more mental and emotional rather than action-wise or secure based or physical based. I know that the focus of this reading is relying heavily on these 2 elements, on these 2 focuses, and that really does kind of take it kind of like zones in a little bit more on where we're focusing. We're focusing on the communication, our words, our interactions, our thoughts, the way that we're kind of communicating with other people, the way that we're going about planning things, and the way that we're emotionally feeling about those. The head and the heart really is where we're focusing for this reading. That definitely does influence things. And if you have a hard time with learning the meanings of the cards, if you can learn what each of the suits or what the elements that are associated to those suits are, and when you take a look and you can kind of come back and take a look at, instead of trying to break down each of the cards, if you can come from a bird's eye view on it and look at your whole spread and say, how many reversals, how many minor arcanas, how many major arcanas, how many court cards, how many, if you can just bring it down to honestly just what elements are more prominent than others, and try to think, okay, this is a tarot spread that we're going to be talking a lot about the head and the heart, because the emotions is ruling the heart and the feelings, and the swords is about the head and our thoughts and our plans and our words. So we're really talking about those 2 things. That's what our focus is. Let's dive into what the spread positions are and break it down card by card. So the suits for me are very, very important. When another layer to this is that I really do request, if my clients know their sun, moon, and rising, it really is helpful for me. It adds another connection to this spread. So let's say my client is a Gemini sun, a Virgo ascendant, and a Pisces moon. Well, let's do Gemini, and Pisces, right? So we have Gemini, and Pisces. So they have a Gemini sun, Gemini rising, and a Pisces moon. If you don't know this, don't worry about it. But a lot of people do that are here, or that I find a lot of my clients do know this about themselves. So that's air, and water. And if we have a tarot spread full of air, and water, even though I know the focus is going to be on head and the heart and, the thoughts and the communications and the emotions, I might feel like I need to remind them about the two other elements that they don't use a whole lot. I might be very inclined to tell them to ground themselves and to not forget about the financial, and to feel like they're secure, and that there's beauty, and that there's weight in feeling like we have foundations that are set for ourselves. So even though those cards might not come up, looking at it in an elemental way, or looking at it in a feelings way of what the basics is here, but when I'm looking at their astrological signs, I might have to tell them, like, listen, you got to connect back to your body. You are way too much in your head, or you are way too much in your feelings. Let's do some yoga. Let's do some stretching. Don't forget about your body. Or, like, let's just get up and go. Quit worrying. Quit thinking about it. Quit saying you're going to do something and actually do it. Go for it. You know? So, the elements and the suits to me are very important focus wise. And then when my clients do give me their sun, moon, and ascendant, if they know it, I know that that really does have a great influence on me, on where I feel like my guides are kind of trying to connect to the client. So, I'm going to go back just a little bit. Again, if while I was talking you asked me a question or you brought something up, please feel free to post it again. I am going to try and wrap up I would like to keep this, around 2.5 hours, which is my normal live stream. If it goes a little longer, that's fine, but I know I'm not going to get to everything. There's just no way. I'm just trying to give like a good basis on stuff here. I want to talk about the court cards next. The devil represents lust, so would it take it as a yes? Okay, I'm missing. Okay, you guys are talking. Good. Okay, every day I'm shuffling. Okay. There's a lot of you still here, so that says something. I'm keeping your attention. So, I want to talk about I only have one card deck. Good. Focus on that one card deck, Princess Laura, and really dive into it and connect to it in every way that you can. There's nothing wrong with having minimal amount of decks, and I feel like the YouTube space is a really great way for people to find new decks, and I do find a lot of the people on this platform come from a collecting mindset, which is totally fine. I was not raised with that mindset. In fact, I just did put up my tarot collection video, and I have like under 30 decks, and I just got rid of 3 more. I feel the best when I use minimal decks, and that's just what works for me. Some people will use minimal decks, but they just like to have a lot of decks. They just like to have it's a collection. It's something that they feel like are their babies, and that's totally cool too. But all you need is one deck to read tarot. And my grandmother has been a very good example of that for decades and decades. She literally only uses the Mother Peace Tarot. In fact, she has kind of gotten away from a lot of the stereotypical meanings of cards, and she's definitely rooted herself into how she connects with her Mother Peace deck. So, for instance, she pulled the Hermit card, or what in her deck is the Crone, and it has the same association to the Hermit card, but because she's so rooted in what the Crone means to her and what the guidebook had taught her when she learned it, and all the associations and layers for the Crone, that she had forgotten what the Hermit was. Even though she knew it, she is so rooted into what the Crone is and what the Crone means, that she was like, oh yeah, by the way, this is the Hermit card. I forgot, because her and I were talking about it. I was like, the Crone, She's like, I think it would be, what card would it be? I don't know. Let's look it up. She's like, oh yeah, the Hermit, because she is so rooted in how she reads with her one deck, and that's totally fine. So Soren says, I collect to use. I need to use all my decks. Dead Serious Woo says, yes, stick with one deck. It will serve you well when learning. My own learning has definitely been affected by having too many decks and too many shining things to look at. Yes, and I agree. Something that I can highly, highly, highly recommend to you, which is actually something that helped me to feel like every single time I do a deck unboxing and walkthrough, I feel like I'm leveling up. So even though I have a lot of decks and it's like I'm learning a new deck, There's something very powerful and magical about going through the cards one by one and really looking at them, talking about them either out loud or to another person, describing them. What do you like? What don't you like? What are you initially drawn to? Does it make you feel good? Does it not make you feel good? So if you're learning, every so often I definitely recommend taking your deck and kind of going through each and every image and going like, oh wow, there's a lot going on. I can't really tell who's fighting who or what's happening. Are there even teams? Are they all against each other? Is somebody actually even hurt? Like, what are they doing? There's a lot of blue in the background. There's no clouds. It's kind of making me feel chaotic, but I don't really know what's going on. You know, like just kind of taking a look at each of the cards and diving into them is very, very helpful. And so if you only have one card, yeah. So I will tell you too that I go in a lot of detail about the court cards and breaking down every single card when we did, again, the Witchy Book Club, when we first went over the Kitchen Table Tarot, as well as on August 5th when we go over the second part of Tarot Elements. I'm going to be going over a lot of this, maybe in more detail again. So yeah, supportive tarot with Lisa said, you're absolutely right, Sammy. YouTube makes it look like you should have a ton of decks sometimes, and that's not the case at all. I have lots, but I don't need lots. One deck is absolutely all you need. Yes, I agree. And I'm not saying that these YouTubers that have like really intense deck collections are doing a disservice or like confusing people. I just want everyone to recognize and to know that to be a good reader or to feel like you're professional, it doesn't mean that you have to have a shitload of decks. In fact, I sometimes look like when I have a lot of decks, I feel myself as though my energies are scattered and I'm not really focusing on the actual connectivity of a deck and a card, and I will often just put all my cards away and just use one or two decks strictly in readings or for myself because I want to really get down to the root of what it is I'm connecting to. But I love having a variety of decks too for different focuses on readings, you know, for depending on what I'm doing. Okay, I have enough court cards out here. I'm going to keep this pretty brief. There's a lot of resources, like I said on my channel already, but I do come at this from the very same sort of mindset that I did about the major arcana, about the suits, about, you know, things like that. And the court cards are the same way. Now, the court cards were probably the hardest for me to learn at first, which is ridiculous because now they're some of the easiest and some of the most fun for me. So when I'm talking about the court cards, I'm talking about, oh my god, I'm missing so much. Oh, I just scrolled down and realized, hold on, let me hold off. Wish I had done that. I'm just going to skim through here, and if there's something that you guys really want me to read or go over, type it again. You can always go on a deck fast, pick one. Okay, I'm allowed to read it. It really helps solidify what I mean. Am I allowed to recommend a tarot course a YouTuber made a while ago? I don't want to step on any toes. It has really helped solidify things for me while I'm learning. Of course. Yeah, any sort of resources. I'm not into this shit, like, don't talk about this channel, don't talk about this person, that person doesn't do it the way that I do it. Like, that's what this platform is about, and everybody has their own way, and if I'm not giving you what you need as far as information or knowledge, go for it. There's room enough for everyone, and I don't, like, yeah, go for it, for sure. It would not offend me at all. Oh darn, it's late again. I'm going to have to watch later. Okay, I think I'm caught up. Again, if you guys had a question or you wanted me to focus on something, type it again in all caps. But I have to keep going because we're getting almost to two and a half hours here, and I just got a text from George that says, call me. So, the court cards to me. Now, these were really hard for me to learn because I had learned what each of the suits meant, so I knew what the difference to me was between, let's say, the King of Pentacles and the King of Swords, right? We talked about this being earthly, finance, physical, material, secure, slow moving, and the sword suit being of air, of mind, of communication, of thoughts and things like that. But being able to kind of translate the court cards in messages for my clients, the things that I would always get hung up on is this my client? Is this an archetype of my client? Is this another person in the reading? Is it an archetype that they need to bring in more or that they're doing well with? Is this a masculine? Is this a feminine? Is this a younger? Is this an older? I would always really doubt those little questions about it because at the basics, I knew what they meant. But it was more so me being able to translate and kind of like put them into words. I was like, okay, I'm describing this archetype. I'm describing what this means. Is this another person or is this you? I don't really know. Because a lot of the times when court cards or people cards come up in spreads, it could be another person in that client's life that's affecting that area. So let's say the spread position is talking about the home, right? It's talking about the home and the security and the comforts of the home, and we have the King of Swords. So it's up to you and your job whether you're going to associate this with the archetype behind the King of Swords for the client, whether it's why are we overthinking or whatever it is you're going to associate. I'm not going to try and break it down, but it could be this is the archetype that you feel or that you think or the way that you're reacting in your home, or it could be another person that's living in the home with the client. That's another way that I will read it. Or this could be someone that's helping them buy a home or someone that's stopping by the home. This could be something of an energy that you need to bring into the home. So a lot of the times I do associate them, and I think the people cards are very beneficial to use for just that, for people cards, whether it's an archetype or a personality part of the client or another person in their surroundings or in their home that they are kind of connecting to. Although when I was starting to first really read professionally, this was one of my biggest hangups, was knowing whether it was the client or whether it was another person or whether this was something that I needed to remind themselves about archetype wise. Now I feel like I just know intuitively because after a long time, or in a video reading, if I'm kind of getting split things, I will kind of explain it to them that way. This could be someone else that's around you in this environment of the home, or this could be you in the home, and I might leave it up to them and give them both of the options because I don't have the luxury of them saying, oh, no, this is my father that I live with. And he really is his way or the highway, and he's a very smart, intelligent man, but it's not very feelings based. It's not very this or that. It's like the right or the wrong way, here it is kind of thing. So, that was a big part of it. But when I see a spread, the same way I look at with the, let's say, Anthony's book of your court cards has helped me with this, still learning, but it definitely helped. Yeah, and like I said, there are other resources out there. There is books out there that specify or kind of certainly kind of hone in on different things like the court cards like Anthony's, or there are video resources where it breaks it down. I know Imogen Walters did a series back a couple years ago on her channel of like looking at these archetypes, breaking down the God, I love how blunt and open you are. The YouTuber is Kellyanne Maddox. Yeah, I wasn't trying to be rude, but yeah, Kellyanne Maddox has wonderful resources on how to read the tarot. Imogen Walters broke down the court cards as in specific people, like she broke down the pages as different children on a playground at school. So looking at them and how each of the archetypes would have reacted as children on a playground. And how she talked about like dating the knights. If you were to be dating the knights, how would they be, and how the Knight of Wands could be kind of like a fuckboy or things like that, and how the Knight of Pentacles would be very, committal or very slow moving, things like that. So there's a lot of resources out there to help you connect to the meanings of the cards, but I did want to bring that up, that the court cards do influence me just as much as the other ones are. And if I'm looking at a big spread, right, we have a few of each of the suits, we have a few of each of the major or the minors, we have a few reversals, we have a few upright, and we have four different four different court cards, I will really look as that as outside influences or literally archetypal energy, people influencing the reader, or how the reader's personality is coming through in that certain situation. So I hope that part the court cards and how I associate with them. The other day I did a reading for a client. I'm not going to name names or any certain circumstances, but we had 6 out of the 12 cards that I threw were court cards, but we had all 4 queens show up. All 4 queens. And so I really used the other 2 court cards as outside influences, and all 4 queens to me really represented the reader and all of her different womanhood and all of her different ways that she's associating with the divine feminine and how she's kind of using her female power and where it's breaking down in certain energies. When I saw that we had all 4 queens there, it really did kind of solidify a certain focus or bond between the client and the cards for me specific because of what I knew she wanted to focus on. So again, situational wise, it definitely depends on what you're doing, where the cards are, but basically that's the breakdown, sis. Okay. So, let me go back up. Oh, I need to check out Imogen's videos. I haven't seen that one. Yeah, it's from a few years back. Loved Imogen's court card series. Okay, Lady Knight of Avalon said, I find it helpful to assign fictional characters from TV shows to the court cards. Yeah, and we definitely did talk about that in one of my videos. I think it was when we broke down the kitchen table tarot. Definitely. And then when I did Tarothon 2 years ago, we went through the major arcanas and we linked them to movies. So movie characters or movies that we associated to each of the cards. So if you're looking for that, it's up on my channel. It was super, super fun and a great way to get another added layer and connectivity to the cards. So it's been at 2.5 hours. The only thing I really didn't get to, but I kind of did, was regular meanings versus using your intuition and the way that spirit kind of gives me nudges and guides me through the tarot. So maybe I can have this be a separate live stream and we can really break down the way that I connect to spirit and how I use them to read the cards or how they influence me, because it really is a very big part, but I don't feel like I will have enough time or energy to kind of really explain it properly. So I guess I'm going to leave the last couple minutes to any questions that you guys have, or if there's things that you feel like I didn't explain like well enough or in enough detail, feel free. And if not, then if you guys have any questions about anything else, let me know, or I will wrap this up. I was learning about the Page of Pentacles and I was like, ooh, Rory Gilmore. Oh yeah. So definitely that was a great way for me. To me, I liked to take, and I explained this, I took the court cards and used them for Disney characters because I feel like Disney characters or cartoon characters tend to be a little bit more one-dimensional, and it's easier not to kind of like put them, mix them up between 2 different court cards. You know, they tend to be very like extreme versions of archetypes. So while I feel like Simba from The Lion King is very much the Page of Wands, you know, he's very action based. Let's go, let's do it. I just want to be older. I want to go. I want to be a lion. I want to roar. I want to explore. I want to rule. I want to do this. Let's go into the Badlands. Like taking what I feel like are like extreme versions of archetypes, which I find like that Disney characters are really easy to do that with because it's harder to like get them confused with other ones. That is a really great way. If you write down all the court cards, and I've done this before, and again, we've talked about this on my channel before, if you write down all the court cards and any sort of archetypal characters that you feel are associated to it, definitely does help. I love that description of Simba as the Page of Wands. Yeah. So, and then that just is kind of fun for you to try and figure out, like, who is who. Like, Mufasa to me is definitely the King of Pentacles. And maybe you associate with something different, but yeah. So, anyways, have you ever done a reading for someone but realized the reading might be for you? Just curious if that ever happens. No, no and yes. So no. In the general sense that when I've gotten really good and I've really practiced connecting to another person's energy and connecting to really reading for another person and connecting to what they need to hear. But I will find that sometimes it overlaps. And most of the time when this happens, it's because spirit or my mind is taking an interpretation of a card, and the way that I'm hearing to translate it is by my own personal situation. So, for instance, a lot of the time what comes up for me is like when I'm talking about the six of pentacles, immediately sometimes what I see is a situation in which I connected to the Six of Pentacles, and that's the way that my translation's coming through with, here, let me tell you this quick story about this card, and here's how this is, I'm seeing this is connecting to you. And to use this example that I went through with the Six of Pentacles to kind of correlate to you right now with where you feel like this resonates. Not always do I tell a story like that for every card, but and for instance, I was, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it was about, but I am in therapy and I'm going through some really deep rooted, insecure, shadowy, very, very deep, dark things that I have never really talked to about with people, with another person or at all. And it's very hard for me to like speak certain words or to talk about certain topics. And the last session that I had with my therapist, we were really working on that, and I was really trying to use my voice to communicate what it is that I'm trying to, work on. And even just the mindset of me focusing on it and actually acknowledging that there is something that I've buried deep down. The next client reading that came through was somebody asking me to focus on this exact thing that they're struggling with. And so I feel like my guides were there to help me access this for another person and kind of make it was kind of wild, you guys. Really, honestly, like I was working on accessing this shadow or this certain thing within myself, and I like immediately got a client reading that was like, can you help me with X, Y, and Z? I feel like I'm struggling here and here, and is this gonna happen or is this not gonna happen? Like, I just need help. And then I was like, well, shit. All right, here we go. So there is things that I do feel like are overlapping. And I do feel like there are things that I know that I've told my spirit guides that are off limits to me, that I struggle with myself, and maybe that is why I don't feel equipped to be giving guidance or messages for other people about. And so, spirit doesn't really hand me those clients in which I feel like I'm not comfortable dealing with it with myself, so why would I feel comfortable dealing with it for you? And as soon as I kind of make that switch, like, okay, we're going to access this, we're going to dive into it, I'm okay with it, then Spirit's like, well, here you go, here you go, do it then. So, yes and no. Never am I reading, though, and I feel like, oh, maybe this is me, and I've done this whole reading wrong, and I'm really just connecting to me and not you. Because at the root of everything, Heather, I really do truly believe that we all are one and we all are connected, and that there really are projections and there really are overlaps, and there are people and situations that come into our lives to teach us stuff about ourselves. So at the basis of it, yeah, I kind of feel like every reading I do is a chance for me to learn more about my situation or my life, but never do I doubt that I'm giving a client a good enough reading or interpretation, because I'm really just associating it to myself, and that really comes with practice and confidence. But I would be stupid in my own sense if I didn't say that I couldn't connect to what my clients were going through on some level, if that makes sense. It's such a good question. I've always wondered about that. She says, okay, yeah, so I think that's it for today, you guys. Really wonderful time connecting with you. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up, or this live stream a thumbs up if you haven't already. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please freaking do. I don't know if you've noticed my subscriber count, but I think I'm like less than 20 subscribers away from 5,000, and that is insane. I really appreciate every single one of you. I hope that you find my platform here and my channel here is a safe and sacred space for you to learn and to communicate and to share and to have a sense of, connectivity with other people, and just really self-development and awareness. um, of yourself and others. That really is my biggest goal here, is to feel like people have a space where they can feel creative and feel like they're learning and sharing, and I learned so much from you guys. So thank you very, very much. I will see you very soon. I'm gonna call my boyfriend. Already subscribed. Have a good Monday. I love you. I love you. I love you. If you want to share this live stream, that would be totally rad. If you feel like it would help other people out there, feel free. If not, I love you all very much, and I hope that you have a beautiful, wonderful, magical day. Bye!